the excitement around the rookie QBs in just a bit. There's a lot to talk to as we welcome you to NFL Live. Football must be close with this crew, right? We got Dan Orlovsky, Mina Kimes, Marcus Spears, Adam Schefter throughout. Guys, we have to start with some breaking news, though, from the Jets. We'll get to the shirt, too. Go ahead, Adam. What's going on?
Well, Laura, Haason Reddick has informed the New York Jets that he wants to be traded. The Jets just traded for Reddick 4.5 months ago. He came in to take a physical, do his introductory press conference, at which time he said he was happy to be there. And that was the last we've seen and heard from Haason Reddick until today. Today he came out and said he wants to be traded. There's a contract stalemate. He's scheduled to make $14.25 million. And let me break it down for you this way. Essentially, he has been looking for that new contract to be paid like an elite pass rusher. The New York Jets haven't had any contract negotiations with him in recent months, and they've essentially said, we're not going to do a deal with you unless you're in the building. But he stayed away from minicamp. He stayed away from training camp. He hasn't shown up, and so there is the stalemate. He wants a deal. The Jets want him to show up, and earlier today, the Jets general manager, Joe Douglas, came out with a statement that said that the New York Jets will not trade Haason Reddick and that they expect him to essentially report to the team. So we have a stalemate. We have a player who essentially the team traded for and was banking on, who now has asked for his own trade. And here we go with the latest NFL training camp drama.
Man, Shefty, and you know what's so bad? This went from what I thought was one of the quietly best moves in the offseason for the New York Jets, especially playing in the AFC. When we know games in the fourth quarter, Haason Reddick is the difference maker. The second thing is this, though. When you think about Joe Douglas been through hell and back, man. And this is just one of those unfortunate situations, again, where you get a guy that is highly productive that you think is going to be available. And unfortunately for Aaron Rodgers, he was injured last year, so they couldn't make good on the fact that he wasn't there. I think the defense will still be fine. I'm not sending out any smoke signals, but Haason Reddick is a 15-plus sack a year guy. And when you start talking about Super Bowl aspirations, AFC championships, this trade was big, and this is huge that he may not be in camp with the Jets or even play this year.
Yeah, the defense will be fine without him, but the expectation is more than fine. The expectation is Super Bowl caliber defense. And I think what's notable, particularly with the Jets, Marcus, is they don't blitz. They blitz at the second lowest rate in the NFL. They're so dependent on that four-man rush getting home. And while you've got Quinn Williams in the middle, who's an absolute superstar, if Haason Reddick isn't in that lineup, you're leaning on Jermaine Johnson, who I thought was good last year, but he's going to have to be great. Will McDonald, their first-round draft pick a couple years ago, is going to have to be great. So much depends on Reddick being there for this defense to be, not just to be as good as we thought they were, but to play the style of football that they've played under Robert Saleh, where they don't blitz. To me, it's a little bit surprising that to hear not just that a deal hasn't been done, but that there haven't been talks, because they knew when they traded for him that he wanted a new contract. So I'm a little bit surprised, frankly, to hear this news, even if he ends up staying in New York.
Yeah, don't forget, Bryce Huff, who was arguably their best edge guy, went to Philadelphia. Yeah. So they don't really have an edge rusher. And I'm a little bit more with Mina. Marcus, I don't think I've played against these defenses that are predicated on this four-man rush and zone coverage behind. If you don't have an edge rusher that we, as an offensive person, is scared of, we're okay. The internal guys, Quinnen, I respect them, absolutely. But the edge rusher on those third downs with that interior push guy, like Reddick was supposed to be that person with the loss of Huff. If they don't have him, this defense takes a significant hit unless one of those other guys takes that big jump forward.
And I think, Dan, it really starts with Bryce Huff, because Bryce Huff was with the Jets last year. We get to free agency and Bryce Huff goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles recognized there was a contractual issue with Haason Reddick, who turns 30 years old in September. And rather than pay him now, they opted to pay a younger player from the Jets. Jets had a hole. So the Jets go and trade for Haason Reddick. Now, at the time, the Jets thought that Reddick was okay with talking about a deal initially, but that if he didn't get one, he still would report. That's how he sounded. But Haason Reddick would be of the mind that the Jets haven't come to him with any offers really since they traded for him. And so now we have this stalemate and this big misunderstanding, this big miscommunication, this big issue that is essentially on the Jets' doorstep that they have to handle now as the season is rapidly approaching.
Yeah, and Adam, as you pointed out a couple times we were following this story, the Jets felt like Reddick should report or at least be on their premise before they were going to actually talk to him. He didn't do that. He didn't want to do that. So we're going to get back to it. All right, we got to get to some action from yesterday. Let's go to the Colts and the Broncos in preseason action. Love you, Swagoo. Bo Nix playing in his first NFL game. We'll see him taking over late in the first quarter at this point.
He hang in the pocket, then move on his full speed to his left, essentially across his body was fantastic. And you saw his athleticism both in scramble mode like this one and then some of those designed runs that you're going to see here with Sean Payton, which really isn't part of his offensive game plan unless he was using Taysom Hill back in his New Orleans days.
Yeah, a touchdown pass. The Broncos now lead 10-3, and Nix is looking good. Early third quarter, Broncos now leading 13-10, delivering that quick throw to David Sills.
Yeah, a really big part of the game plan player were very impressive.
Here's Nix after the game.
I could tell it was a little bit faster. It was definitely more professional. I mean, the guys are in the right spots. They're disguising. They're doing well. They're where they're supposed to be. But, you know, I felt very, you know, calm and relaxed back there. It was just a game. They were still in cover 3 in quarters. And, man, I mean, it's the same defense. And so you just got to figure out which one they're in and then execute the play that's called. But I thought we did a great job with our play calls today. We stayed in rhythm. We ran the ball efficiently, and that's always nice. And so overall, it was a very productive day.
Okay, I know it's just the preseason, but he honestly looked really calm and comfortable like he's talking about. Did you like what you saw from him yesterday?
Yeah, and I'll use the word that he just talked about right there, rhythm. I mean, that was the overwhelming thing when you watch that game was he was in rhythm, and in this offense, when the quarterback is in rhythm, the offense is in rhythm, and that's why the playbook felt so open for Sean Payton. The ball came out really quickly. You see Bo Nix, 21 pass attempts, 19 of those happened in under 4 seconds. So the big part of the design was making sure that the ball was coming out. They ran the football relatively efficiently, and they spread it out to the perimeter. Now, I would caution him by saying, yeah, they're basically in cover 3 quarters. You know, you just got to figure out. You're going to see a little bit more nuance than you get into the regular season. When they drafted him, I felt he would be the day 1 starter. It only gets solidified by that week 1 performance, and I don't expect it to drop off going into week 2.
I think you saw everything you'd want to see out of a rookie quarterback in a new offense, which is an offense built on his strengths. And those strengths were the same ones we saw in college, that lightning quick release, the accuracy in the short and intermediate parts of the field, the ability to throw on the move. That was all baked into the of different quarterbacks. Bo Nix is not Drew Brees. They're extremely different. Sean Payton knows that. I think what we saw, you know, immediately in preseason and all of that is a coach who knows what his quarterback does well and is going to call an offense this year that's catered to his skill set.
Well, fortunately enough, Mina, to your point, he can be a 2-in-1 guy. And you and Dan alluded to it. The fact that he can have RPO and zone read in this offense, but still feel comfortable enough to put Bo in rhythm. And then you start talking about this run game as well. I think he adds to their ability, especially with Williams and McLaughlin in the backfield. We saw them have some nice runs in that quarterback whisperer. When we were talking about when he was on TV broadcasting, what job would he get and what quarterback play would he elevate no matter what team he went to? Now he has a rookie that he's been able to draft, and he's able to do things that he did with Drew Brees, but also did with Taysom Hill without interchanging those guys coming in and out of the game. The athleticism just adds, but I think Sean will be cautious about it.
We talked about this before, but it's worth repeating right now. It wasn't like they were sitting at number 12 and all these quarterbacks went in front of them and then they felt like, oh, let's go settle in on Bo Nix. Bo Nix was the guy that Sean Payton was after the whole time. Sean Payton was mesmerized by his skill set. And this was a guy that essentially the Broncos were hoping were going to get to him. They considered even trading up to secure his services. And because of all those factors, it always felt like it was going to be Bo Nix's job to lose this summer. Well, if you're going to go out and throw 15-21, throw for a touchdown, lead 4 scoring drives, that's not losing that job. That's winning that job. And he has to lose that job, which he certainly didn't do in the first preseason game before he gets the chance to start the second preseason game.
Yeah, I think Mina brings up a big point and a good point when it comes to Sean Payton and the way that he kind of diversifies the offense to the quarterback. The ability for Bo to operate as many RPOs as he's capable of, and we saw a decent amount of them yesterday, it helps not only the quarterback, but all of the offense.
Yeah.
And I don't think that he would be able to do that with other guys, MK, you know, and for an offensive line that's not dominant, it's going to help them. For the receivers that aren't dominant, it'll help them.
Dan, only rookie quarterback to start for the Broncos in a season opener was who?
Jay Cutler?
John Elway, 1983. We're just getting started on NFL Live. A lot more coming your way. Confusion and let's zero in on the Cowboys. Now just a little over 3 weeks to the season. Still no new deal for that guy, CeeDee Lamb. Extremely important to this offense. Jerry Jones' tune has started to change on the urgency here. Just a smidge.
I think I got in trouble a little the other day when I said, look, we're not urgent about CD. Well, no one appreciates CD being on the field any more than I do. Now, I understand completely the angst that's happening when you're anxious about and someone says anything about whether you're missed or not. Well, CD, you're missed, okay? But you're not missed out here competing, and it doesn't put any pressure any place on us.
All right, Marcus. So Lamb is missed, but he's not missed out here. What's Jerry saying?
Oh, God, I'm so tired already, and we in the preseason. Listen, Boogie, you know me, and you know me well. We've been doing TV for a long time. I don't know what the hell Jerry is talking about. CeeDee Lamb is missed. And he may not be missed now because you ain't playing real games, but you're going to miss him when this regular season starts and Dak out there not knowing who to throw the damn ball to outside of the tight end. Here's the problem, right? Again, and we've revisited this. This should have been taken care of a while ago. There should have been already things put in place based on an organization that should get ahead of their superstars. Now, Dallas has done a good job. I got to give them credit for signing and retaining talent that they've drafted. But this, to me, is one of the most critical ones because when you take CeeDee Lamb out of that offense, you lose a huge percentage of it. So, yes, they got Dez Bryant done, and they got Zeke Elliott done when he was a big part of what they were doing offensively. You remove CeeDee Lamb out of this offense, this team is bad. Not just him missing, they can't compete for a championship or even potentially get into the playoffs without CeeDee Lamb being available this year.
And Big Swagoo, they know that. And CeeDee Lamb wants to be there. And that's why these two sides, when you talk to enough people around the league, fully expect that this deal will get done. It would be a huge upset if CeeDee Lamb is not there for the start of the regular season. Now, I don't know whether they can bridge the differences, which aren't that much, this week or next week or the week after, but this deal's going to get done. It would be shocking and utterly stupid if it did not get done in time for the start of the regular season. So they're going to figure out a way. It's disappointing that it went on as long as it did, but the fact that they can't get this deal done is hard to imagine. Look, he's got 1 year left on his deal. Everybody knew it was coming. We know what the numbers should be. It should be simple to get done, and the full expectation is it will get done, and it'll get done in time for the start of the regular season. So this is just a lot of noise till then. If he's not there on opening day, we're going to have a hell of a conversation on the Monday NFL Live after the regular season opener.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be fun. Yeah, Shefty, you're so fired up. Are you rooting for the Cowboys is what Dan's asking. But either way, all right, so they do also still have Dak Prescott, who needs to be paid, and Micah Parsons. The timeline seems to be much further down the road. Lamb is not the only wideout looking for a new deal. Adam, what do we know about the situation in Cincinnati?
See, I think this one is a bit more mysterious and complicated because Jamar Chase has 2 years left on his deal, and because the Bengals president, Mike Brown, was very outspoken right before training camp that the time to do deals is in the offseason, not now that training camp has begun, and in his words, the die has been cast. And so Jamar Chase still hasn't practiced. So unless these two sides can figure it out, this one becomes a little bit more mysterious and complicated. As for Brandon Ayuk, the wide receiver in San Francisco, he's got 1 year left on his deal. Makes it a little bit easier, but we know the drama that's been involved here. The fact that there have been near trades and near deals and nothing's happened. And this saga's gone on. The bottom line here is the 49ers want to try to focus on re-signing Brandon Ayuk, bringing him back to San Francisco, and that's where their current focus is. If a deal can't get done, then yes, the trade option possibility does open up again. But I think the organization wants to get that deal done. It sounds like Brandon Ayuk is open to listening to what they have to say, and I think at this point it's tracking towards a deal in San Francisco rather than a trade. But we've seen a lot of different twists and turns to this particular story until it's put to bed once and for all. We don't know exactly how it will turn out, but right now, going back to San Francisco would seem to be the most likely option.
Yeah, Adam, you've been on those twists and turns right there with him with all the latest news. We'll keep an eye on that one. Let's get to some rookie quarterback performances over the weekend. Third overall pick, Drake May, took only 6 offensive snaps in 1 series after Jacoby Brissett started for the Patriots in their 17-3 win over the Panthers. To the Commanders, their quarterback, Jaden Daniels, shined in 1 offensive series against the Jets. It was highlighted by a 42-yard dime throw to De'Ami Brown, and then capped off an 11-play, 75-yard drive with a zone read rushing touchdown. And then the top pick, Caleb Williams. He showed promise for the Bears, going 4 for 7 with 95 passing yards. He had a 13-yard run on a scramble in 2 series of work. And I know it's just 1 game, but Bears fans, and maybe they've got some reason to be excited there. I think they do. Mina, did Caleb live up to expectations in his first action?
Yeah, I mean, he was as advertised. He has every club in the bag when it comes to NFL throws. We knew that. We saw that. Some of the off-platform stuff was on display. But what really jumped out to me, Dan, was his poise. You saw there in those highlights, the 3rd down throw, 3rd long to DJ Moore. Watching that the next day on the end zone view, watching his helmet move across the field, watching how calm he looked in what admittedly was a very clean pocket, trusting that to hold up, not bailing, not looking jittery ever. That's the good stuff right there. I mean, if I'm a Bears fan, I'm thrilled with this first outing, and he's off to a fantastic start.
Yeah, I thought he was sensational. And MK, you talk about that 3rd down. That's a difficult kind of recognition to get for a player who maybe hasn't seen that play or that type of coverage in his career, certainly ever. And to be able to do that with the athleticism stuff is a big deal. Those 3 receivers that MK brought up, they're just going to run deep sits, essentially. And you're trying to build a 5-point die, and you're trying to start over the middle of the field, get everybody at the depth of the 3rd down, and you're working towards whatever internal defender squeezes off that flat defender. He works weak side, and at the right time, rips the ball. This is one of the more impressive plays I saw of him. Mina, you mentioned poise. He's going to get pressure, and he's throwing a screen backside. So often guys panic in that moment because the screen feels faster or slower than the pressure. He just patiently waits and dumps the ball off the Swift. This is one of my favorite plays of the weekend. It looks like single high safety, meaning 1 guy in the middle field, man coverage underneath. It's 3rd down. Ball gets snapped and they spin the coverage to man underneath, but 2 safeties. The main thing is no one's accounting for the quarterback. He quickly recognizes that, and takes off as a runner. And I think that's the big thing, is how quick. That wasn't a scramble to get out of bad. That was a scramble because the opportunity for good. The last thing I'd say is this, MK. He saw 5 different defenses. Traditional man, cover 2, cover 3, quarters, fire zone. He didn't look fazed by any of it. That's different than what we saw in college.
The Bears face the Titans in week 1. Going to be exciting to see Caleb in real action. Up next, did Justin Fields mess up his chance to make a convincing case to be QB1 in Pittsburgh?
I think Webster defines it an indefinite number between that's more than 2 and fewer than many.
Oh, he had it ready, that definition. Coach Taylor bringing out the dictionary. It's a good reminder, too. The Bengals brought in Trent Brown this offseason, adding some depth at right tackle. But let's get Adam Schefter in here for several more top stories. Adam, let's start with some injury news out in Kansas City. What do we need to know?
Hollywood Brown spent the night in a Jacksonville area hospital on Saturday night, was discharged Sunday morning. Fortunately, he did not need surgery for the shoulder and chest injury that he suffered. He flew back to Kansas City. They are now going to take some time to see how long he will miss. His status for the regular season opener against Baltimore is uncertain. Andy Reid said today they'll see whether or not he's able to make it back for it. No sure thing. Malik Neighbors hobbled off the field on Sunday, took his shoe off, hobbled off. The Giants are saying it's a sprained ankle where he is essentially going to be day-to-day. They're still doing more testing. That's always problematic with a player that's as talented as Neighbors, but the Giants don't believe the ankle injury is serious. The Browns quarterback, Deshaun Watson, has been fully cleared for contact now as the Browns prepare for joint practices versus the Vikings. Remember, he needed surgery after fracturing his shoulder last November. Now he's been cleared for contact, and the Browns will slowly ramp him back up to get him ready for the start of the regular season, and they expect him to be playing in that game. And the big story today, Laura, of course, was the Jets edge rusher Haason Reddick, who they traded for this offseason, showed up for the introductory press conference and physical, and that was the last thing he's done as a New York Jet until today, when he requested a trade from the team that has not essentially addressed his contract demands. They have not had any contract talks since the Jets first traded for him, which is the rub in this particular situation. Reddick wants a new deal. The Jets don't want to talk to him about a new deal until he shows up. He stayed away from the minicamp. He stayed away from training camp. He's incurring a mandatory $50,000 a day fine. And the Jets said today they will not trade him, but Reddick wants to be traded. We'll see where this story goes. It never ends with the Jets.
As our analysts pointed out earlier on in the show, a key piece to what we thought that Jets defense would be. Let's head to Steelers camp, where Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are in one of the more intriguing quarterback battles we're seeing right now. Fields started for Pittsburgh in preseason play. He had some ups, also had some downs with a couple of fumbles. Now, Mike Tomlin said after the game that those two fumbles undid some of the positive things, and holding on to the football has been a big issue for Fields throughout his 3 years in the league. Could be a troubling sign of things to come. I know it was only one preseason game. Fields has put the ball on the ground 38 times since entering the NFL back in 2021. The most fumbles by any player in that span. 5 more. His 2021 draft class, Trevor Lawrence, that's the other one who is even anywhere close. Mina, the fumble's obviously an issue, but are there other areas that should have Pittsburgh concerned here?
Yeah, frankly. I mean, you saw highs and lows in this game that were reminiscent of what you saw out of Fields throughout his career in Chicago. The highs being he made a couple of nice throws. I thought the deep out to Van Jefferson off of play action was a really nice ball. But then the lows were ones that Bears fans are all too familiar with. Ball security, yes, but also holding on to the football. It didn't feel like he was playing faster, which is what you would hope for. Now, I'll add, what you didn't see was a design quarterback run element, which is what I've always felt distinguishes him from Russ in this quarterback competition as something that Arthur Smith can lean on, and I think it'll help the Steelers' rushing attack. But overall, if you wanted to go into this game, if you were hoping rather that Fields would, put a gap between him and Wilson in the quarterback competition, I don't think he did so based on this one performance.
Yeah, MK, I'm with you on the indecisiveness is what I saw, like you said, reminiscent of Chicago. And it was funny listening to you and Dan talk about Caleb Williams and the quick decision-making process. And you saw Fields kind of have to become stagnant in some of those plays. It looked good when it looked good, but the fumbles obviously are a huge deal. But to me, it's still just, it's like something is missing. We know the run game can be implemented and you can be a phenomenal athlete, but this league, you're going to have to throw the football at a very high level. And it seems when the pitcher is clear and he can make that one decision, he can push the ball down the field and be accurate. But anytime it looks like a mix-up, he becomes indecisive and dances in the pocket a little bit and doesn't just trust it. And that was the Danielle Hunter sack for me, is the one I referenced when you showed it just on film. It's a problem because it's like a hitch. When you need him to go make a play, it's a hitch, it's a pause somewhere.
Yeah, it's a hitch when he doesn't need it and no hitch when he does need it. The fumbles That's a group effort. That's not on Justin. It's not on the center. It's both of them. We actually don't know who the starting center of the Steelers is going to be, so I give a little bit of grace to that because there's movement attached to that. When a center steps, your quarterback goes with them. So, but to your both points, there's some bad Justin, some not Justin's problem, and some good Justin, the bad Justin. This is a third down of the game. George Pickens is running a deep in at the bottom. I want everyone to pay attention to the pace, the speed of Justin's drop, okay? We've seen this in his career. Now, Justin takes a hitch, Marcus. He's ready to throw. No one's even remotely close to getting ready to catch the ball, so his clock tells him to get rid of the football, but he doesn't have to. He plays too fast there because he's moving too quickly. Now, Marcus, this is that Hunter sack, I believe. Man-to-man across the board, okay? He's going to run double stick at the bottom of the screen. You have to work outside in, meaning George Pickens to the tight end. George doesn't run a stick route. So Justin goes to throw the tight end, but there's color there, so then he runs around and says, Justin, don't hold on to the football. Well, they're running the wrong routes. And then this is the Mina point to the play action. Now, here's the difference in the first clip. Justin is hitched, and then Van Jefferson is ready for the football. The timing of that married up perfectly. I don't want to make excuses for the young man. I do know that one play, the timing is completely off, and it looks bad on him. Another play, people aren't running the same routes, and it looks bad on him. Yeah. And then there's a play where it does time up perfectly, and you go, okay. So, yeah, it takes everybody, and you want to see that individual growth from him, but I don't think this is just I still think this is a work in progress in Pittsburgh.
Progress, yeah.
Well, and how much of this is the preseason? When Mina's talking about the coaches diagramming a run game plan for him, they're not going to do that and show what they could do with Justin Fields ideally, right? In a preseason game, they're not going to show their hand before they have to. And again, I think we come back to where this quarterback battle is at. All your breakdowns are accurate, spot on, agree with all of them. But the fact of the matter is Russell Wilson had the pole position, suffered the calf injury. Justin Fields was given reps. He's opened the Steelers' eyes to the possibilities of what they could do for him. There are issues that they know that they'd have to work through. And now Russell will be coming back, and we'll see whether Russell can hold on to that job or Justin Fields can continue to impress the coaches, which he's done during practice.
Yeah, and let's say Russ ends up being the week one starter. You never know when Justin Fields could take over during the season as well. There's so much to that story left to play out. Coming up, we finally react here on NFL Live, and Jaden Daniels saw his first action as a professional this weekend, something Bill Belichick says is very important for rookie QBs.
As far as the rookies go, I think for those guys, you know, they should play and they should get a feel for the game, the speed of the pass rush, just, you know, especially I'd say some of the rookie quarterbacks this year who, you know, some of whom are a little undersized, just, you know, the height and the girth of the defensive linemen and all that. I mean, that's good for him to experience in a live game situation, you know, not just practice.
Catch more of Belichick every Monday on the Pat McAfee Show. Now, as for Daniels, what stood out to you, Dan?
Pure. You know, we didn't get a massive body of work, but the thing that stood out at his time at LSU was how natural of a thrower he was, and the ball placement, meaning throwing away from defenders, was his superpower. And he checks out of empty into a go route down the field, and that's good coverage by the Jets. And he throws it to the place only his guy can catch it away from that defender's outstretched arm. And you saw a little bit of the athleticism with his touchdown run, but the pure ability to throw the football exactly where you want it to be stood out for Jaden Daniels, and I completely agree with Coach Belichick. One of the big takeaways when you step out there on the field is how big the defensive linemen are, and Jaden got that opportunity.
He saw some big ones in the SEC, but these are probably bigger. All right, to Vegas next. Brock Bowers had 2 catches for 25 yards in his debut. Head coach Antonio Pierce has big plans for the rookie tight end.
Really want to get the ball out to Brock. And I think everything we've been waiting to see, we saw. Just a dynamic player that's doing a good job just from a mental standpoint. Everything we're asking him to do, he's doing. He's not blinking. Not a lot of mental errors, not a repeat offender. Going to get better each and every week.
Mina, did you like how they use Bowers?
Oh, I loved it. I don't know who's playing quarterback in Las Vegas, but I do know this team is going to live in 12 personnel with him and Michael Mayer, and I love seeing their new offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, align him all over the place. 4 snaps in line, 3 split out wide, including on the big catch and run. You see the radius there, by the way, scooping that ball up. 3 in the backfield, which is something I did not see coming, and I loved 1 in the slot. If this is a preview of what this offense is going to look like, sign me up, because they're going to find mismatches all over the place with Brock Bowers.
Let's go to Seattle next, where rookie defensive end Byron Murphy saw his first action. Marcus, what kind of impact did he have on the field?
He was super active. A lot of what we've seen from these rookies translate from what they did in college. And Byron Murphy, the defensive lineman, I know what the graphic looks like, for Seattle, was physical with knockback, getting into the backfield, making negative plays, being super active and pushing the pocket into the lap of the quarterback, as you see here. And then the next play, movement. His cat quickness is something that we talked about pre-draft. And then this, now, he got to finish the sack. But the ability to run games and stay tight and be strong and dynamic on the interior of the pocket reminds me a lot of what Christian Wilkins did in Miami. It just kept coming to my mind is that is how Christian Wilkins plays. He's active and always around the football.
That's a good comparison. Let's get Mina in here. Are you excited to see Murphy for your Seahawks this season?
Yeah, I didn't know I was on camera there. Just listening to my guy talk about Byron Murphy. Absolutely loved what I saw out of him. The power that he's able to generate with his lower half, getting low against those double teams. The agility, running games. I'm so curious to see how Mike McDonald deploys him. You remember Justin Madubuike having his career year last year in Baltimore. I would not be surprised if we see really good production from Byron Murphy Jr. Byron Murphy II, year 1, because he seems to have that special talent.
Yeah, and McDonald's over there, doing evil sorcerer things, thinking about what this defense can be. Still to come on NFL Live. He's, of course, trying to win the starting quarterback job from Sam Darnold at the moment. We saw JJ in preseason action, though. Let's get Dan in here. What did the tape show you, Dan?
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that we loved with JJ, the play action at Michigan, showed itself again. Minnesota, 2 huge crossers that were great. But I love the deep out, or what we call a shake route throw, because the challenge of play action, there's pros and cons to it. And also, JJ was such this firm thrower in college football that this was a little bit of a touch or love kind of throw. Okay, so the benefits to play action is it helps quarterbacks with protection and different concepts. The downside is this. When you get to the line of scrimmage and you see these 2 safeties, you're trying to figure out, are they going to be in a 1 safety defense, meaning that safety goes back to the middle of the field and he drops down, or are they maybe going to go to be a 2 safety defense and they both split the field? Now, the challenge is going to be this. As a quarterback, if you're playing drop back, you can always keep your eyes on those safeties. In the play action game, when the ball gets snapped, J.J. McCarthy has to turn his back to the defense and no longer sees him. When he's going to make that ball fake to the running back, his eyes are pointed that way. He can't see that these safeties actually did spin to that cover too, okay? Now, step number 1, JJ after the fake has got to do a great job of getting his eyes downfield to see, okay, what did those safeties do? And then also find that middle linebacker, because if they split wide and he runs through, now he knows he's got that Tampa 2 defense. Okay, step number 2 is the pass concept. That's that deep shake and flat route off that check. We are going to read this number 1 to number 2. We want to throw this route, okay? It's going to be dependent on this corner. If that corner stays low, we want to throw the deep ball. If he comes up and if he stays deep, we want to take the check down. Now, JJ does a fantastic job of sitting in to that hitch, getting that corner to bite that he wants to throw that flat route and opening up that deep shake. Now, here's the challenge and here's the improvement. This corner's got decent width out here, maybe not enough depth to be able to take that away. So he's got to throw that ball. But if he firms this football like he did sometimes in college hard, that width of the corner is going to help him break it up. He's got to throw this ball up over the top to a spot ahead of that corner, above that corner, perfectly placed on the sideline. I love that because there's the improvement on the type of throw from J.J. McCarthy. Often crossers, it's easier to do, but just the challenge of knowing that the play action certainly is going to help you, but there's also some operational elements that you have to do to be good in the play action world that in week 1, he already did it well.
Wow, I mean, that's a touch thing too. Like, that can't be easy to work on with your game.
Yeah, it's just nice to see for a guy that often threw something as hard as he could too much to develop. It was very pretty. Prettier than the shirt that this dude is wearing on right now.
I've been waiting for that.
But a very pretty throw.
Brush those shoulders off, Swagoo.
It's still summer.
Yeah, no. Hey,
Still summer, man.
I thought you were going to unbutton it a little bit more, too. Okay, anyway. While we look at your
they're
shirt.
not ready for that.
Don't give them what they want, okay? While we get a nice view of your shirt here, let's talk about Sam Darnold, Swagoo, because he's got QB1 spot right now there. What did you make of his performance for Minnesota?
I think when I was watching, I just reminded, like, this dude was a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. And you saw some of that play, the athleticism as well. But that deep dig he threw to Naylor is one of the prettiest balls I've seen thrown in a long time. This one right here. And Dan just talked about JJ being able to layer it. This right here was a seed now. And this is the type of throw that had us excited when Sam Darnold went to Carolina under a new staff, if he could emerge and put the pass behind him when he left the Jets. But you see these type of things from Sam Darnold and you just get excited. But you got to take a pause, because you know sometimes that you may have to take a step back based on his play. But that throw right there reminded me of why he was the 3rd overall pick in the draft.
Marcus, Mina texted me a still shot of that, and she was like, "I will not quit Sam Darnold." I was like, same.
Why you gotta blow up our texts?
Yeah.
Listen, all right, now that you let the world know, there are some of us, Dan and I may be in this club, who still have a few shares of Sam Darnold stock that we're holding on to. And let me tell you, when he threw that ball to Naylor on the dagger concept, it was like a sleeper cell being activated. Like a part of my brain started firing, because that was one of the best throws I saw all weekend. But in all seriousness, I think it creates an interesting dilemma for the Vikings, not just between these two quarterbacks, but are you going to let J.J. McCarthy, who I thought had a phenomenal first outing, compete for the first job? Which, I mean, in weeks 2 and 3 in the preseason, are you going to flip the order so that he can go against ones at some point? It's hard when Sam Darnold is playing like that, and I think it's going to be a challenging thing for the Vikings to balance, to making this feel like a real fair competition so that he earns the job.
Yeah, and you got to think, too, that schedule that they'll actually face, Dan, is part of their decision-making.
Yeah, I think they have to be really encouraged. Sam played well. JJ showed well. It's what we believe.
It's a good problem.
Good situation. Marcus.
Can I ask Dan? This for Sam Darnold, the fact that he has O'Connell now, how much does that change?
Yeah, I mean, it's like he went from San Francisco but didn't get the chance to play. Now he goes to O'Connell, and he's going to more than likely get the chance to play, and it's by far the best opportunity he's ever had.
Us Sam Darnold lovers here, it's the magic we've been waiting for. All right, time for one more thing before we go. We're going to check in on Dan and his fishing exploits, guys. He finally reeled in a big one. Marcus, what did you... You can't even see the fish on the screen, but I promise you it's there. What did you think?
Marcus, talk to me.
First of all, I know how much this meant to you, and I'm happy for you, man, because you had texted me so many times about not being able to catch a fish. We deemed what you caught, though, as bait fish. And I told your ass about fishing with a worm in the ocean. I don't know what you're doing. So next time, if that happens, catch that fish and throw it back in the ocean to catch something bigger that you're supposed to catch.
The first fish of my life and immediately throw it back into the ocean?
No, cast that one.